Was it Android?
It was.
Yeah, Androids can take a beating.
So this is why I hate this printer because I'm so bad at dropping stuff. I just knew that if I didn't have it on that I would destroy it.
Did you sign in? I found some lots of Susan Robson that they did be able to hear. I'll be standing back here, so I'm probably going to fidget a lot. I apologize if I do that. My name is Nikki Gray. I am the Talent Acquisition and Training and Development Manager for Enterprise Rent-A-Car for the state of West Virginia, Southeast Ohio, Eastern Kentucky, and Western Maryland. So I have a pretty big territory. Do this quite a bit. It's something that I love to do far more than going to a career fair, although I like career fairs. Standing still, again, in one place for several hours is not fun for me. But being able to come do something like this, where you all really get a lot out of it, it's very helpful, is one of my favorite things. But I've been with Enterprise for 15 and a half years. I'm actually an alumni of University of Charleston. I started here as a double major in nursing and psychology. Was never asked when I was growing up what I wanted to do. I was told both of my grandmothers and my mother were nurses and in the medical field, that I was going to be a nurse. So I was like, okay. Got to my senior year, double majoring, was like, no, do not want to be a nurse. It is definitely not for me. It is for somebody who has a lot of empathy for people, that don't want people just to get up after 3 days because they should be feeling better. It was definitely not the field for me. So I finished my psychology degree, graduated, had a 3-year-old at that point. I was a single mom. I got to start feeding this kid really well, so I better get a job. And my sorority had actually done a nonprofit event. And as we were working on this event, we were with some professionals, and these people worked for Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and they were talking about how people were making just stupid money and some of the things that they were dealing with during the day. And this person had a company car, and this person just got promoted. I'm looking at these people who were like 2 years older than me. I'm going, what in the heck is going on in Enterprise Rent-A-Car? So I got online and I started looking. My best friend's husband actually at the time was working for Enterprise, so I started asking him some questions and was really taken back by this company who nobody, when you're little, ever says go to work for Enterprise Rent-A-Car. But they were, at that time, the #1 hired college graduates in the world. 15 years ago, the #1 hired college graduates in the world. And a company that promoted from within, a company that promoted on performance. And here I am, stupid competitive all the time about everything, whether it's a video game, and I've broken several controllers, and anything that I did. And so I saw that they paid on performance, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just wanted to be successful and make a lot of money. If I was going to make a lot of money at carrying somebody's garbage out, that's what I was willing to do. That's just what was important to me. So I found Enterprise, and I started in the management training program, which is where everyone starts, and we only promote from within, and moved my way up through rental into management, and then did outside sales and marketing for 4.5 years, piloted a program here and did that. And then almost 9 years ago, moved over to the training and development and recruiting side. So that's kind of been my career path. I love what I do, and 15 and a half years later, we're still the #1 hire of college graduates in the world. Is that weird to you guys? Did anybody tell you when you were growing up to go to work for Enterprise Rent-A-Car because you have a great career? No. Nobody does that. I didn't even say that to my child. But it's weird because we are still the #1 hired college graduates in the world. Just to give you an idea, privately held, so one family owns us and always has. We are now in 47 different countries. We employ 85,000 employees and grossed $16.5 billion in revenue last year. So very, very successful. Doing this is huge for you guys because we didn't even have that opportunity when I came to University of Charleston. They didn't have these presentations. We didn't have career fairs. Nobody told us that we needed to have internships, how important it was, learn how to sell yourself. So I think it's great that colleges now really give this to you all. Half of you probably don't even want to be here because you feel like something else would be better, but I promise you graduation date is going to be right around the corner, and you're going to be freaking out because you don't know how to do this stuff. What's the whole reason of going to school? Get an education to do what? To get a job. None of us want to, but we got to, right? It's like that end-all thing that has to happen at the end. What's the #1 reason that you put a resume together? Make yourself look good? For what reason to make yourself look good? What are you trying to get from that resume? What do you want? I'm sorry? Interview, yes. I've got to move so I can move the slide. So #1 reason for putting together a resume is to get an interview. That's amount of time that you get a look at your resume. What do you think that is? 20 seconds? 5 minutes? 2 minutes? 30 seconds. That is correct. Usually I have cars and balls. You can? Okay. 30 seconds. Is that weird that you all worked that hard on that piece of paper to sell yourself and you're going to get 30 seconds in a recruiter's eyes or a hiring manager's eyes? So how important is it to really sell yourself and to leave out the small stuff that really doesn't matter? How long should your resume be? Who thinks it's more than 1 page? 1 page. How many of you all have a resume right now? How many of you all have a resume right now that's more than 1 page? And I don't mean you clever millennials, how you do things, 1 page front and back. I mean 1 page on the front, because I said to someone doing this class not too long ago, 1 page, your resume has to be 1 page. And they're looking at me like I just hit them with my car because their resume was 2.5 pages long. It really has to be 1 page. If I'm going to give you 30 seconds, it has to be 1 page. Not front and back, which is how they sent their resume to me. It was clever because it was 1 page. But when I sent back, this is all the stuff that you need to remove, and it all just needs to go on the front of that page. It's really important. Just to give you all an idea, my office, and it's me and one other person, received 12,000 applications last year. Out of that 12,000 applications, 6,000 of those applications were for our professional positions, which was either a staff accountant, an internship position, and management training. How many of that 6,000 do you think that we actually hired? We'll hire. Not that high. 53. So going through these resumes is very, very quick, and we've got to figure out how to sell yourself on these as fast as possible. True or false? Resume needs to be eye-catching. I should use neon orange paper, big fonts, and pictures of myself. False. Yes. You are not Elle on Legally Blonde with the really super cute pink paper that smells great. It's kind of creepy as a recruiter when you get that. You don't know quite what to do with it. You're so enamored by like the smell. They do that, like smelly paper. They'll turn it into us. You're not even paying attention to what's going on with the person. The number one thing that you absolutely please don't do, because it's probably you're gonna get a recruiter to go, ah! And wad it up and throw it away. Don't put your picture on it. It is a bad, 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 bad thing. Why is it a bad thing? Because of discrimination. Talk to me about that. Why is discrimination such a big issue, even just with a resume? I'm sorry?
It's unethical in the workplace.
Unethical in the workplace, absolutely. So if I see you right away, maybe your name's Kelly. Thank you very much. Maybe your name's Kelly. That could go either way, right? It could be a guy or a girl. But I see a picture of you. Now I'm kind of held to giving you even more of a look, because if I don't, for some reason, I could be held accountable for discriminating against you. Well, they hired a guy for that. They didn't want a man, and they knew immediately that I was a woman. So they didn't even give me an interview. That type of stuff happens all the time. So recruiters freak out whenever we see pictures or anything that's going to allude to your age, which you cannot ask on an application anymore, or your gender, because it is a bad, bad thing. So you don't want to put anything on there that's going to create a recruiter to freak out. You also don't want anything that's going to, number one, that big, bold type. How long did I say your resume has to be? 1 page. So when you have really big, bold type, it's going to take up your space for you to be able to fit everything on there. So you want to make sure you don't do that. Nothing distracting, no colored paper. Right? You just go get you some thick paper, cream or white in color, very boring, and put everything on there, because everything else is very distracting for us. All right. Here is what needs to really kind of happen and what we're going to go over today. We need your experience, what a resume is, preparing to write your resume, the content areas, resume design, cover letters, employment applications, tips, and resources, okay? How many of you all are freshmen? All right, how many sophomores do we have? Juniors? All right, seniors. How many of you seniors have your job landed and locked down already? How many of you seniors have had internships? Perfect. That number is growing every time I come in here. That is an awesome thing. Juniors, how many of you all have an internship locked down? You're doing one right now, or you have it locked down?
I'm doing one right now.
Okay. Sophomores? That is incredibly important. You all need to start definitely looking for internships. The great thing for you athletes, a lot of times you can't make so much money, especially if you're being paid to come to school to play sports. An internship, they're going to pay you, but not a ton, so it's going to keep you in that area where you need to be, but that experience is going to be huge. And a lot of times internships are just over the summer when you should have a lot of availability to do that. With Enterprise, we do that all year round. And internships, if you do well in your internship, you've got a job offer waiting for you. You're not fetching coffee, you're not running errands, you're getting paid $9 an hour, we work around your school schedule, and you're doing everything that the full-time people are doing, so you're getting exposed to everything that you're learning in class and everything that you may or may not be doing whenever you graduate. What else is another great reason to get an internship rather than experience to put on your resume? Absolutely, to see if you really like it. More than anything for the student is for you to weed out what you don't want to do. Something may sound fantastic. Our program is called a management trainee program, but you're promoted from within and 100% on your performance, which is relative to sales and marketing. So it's called a management trainee program, and I'll say to people, because they walk up to our table and they're like, I read so much about your management trainee program. I'm like, great, are you interested in sales? And they're like, management. That's really what I want to do. And I'm like, well, that's great. We'll teach you how to run a business, but we're looking for people who can grow it and make it more profitable, and you do that through sales. So you want to get out there and figure out business is a huge, huge place. Medical field is a huge, huge place. My daughter actually attends school here right now, and she's in the PA program, and we started talking very early on that you need to get in somewhere and start filling out this medical opportunity. Do you want to work in the ER? Do you want to work in the OR? Do you want to do gynecology? Do you want to do geriatrics? Do you want to do something that's related to oncology? You've got to figure that out. So once you graduate and you get to the master's level program of that, you can focus on what it is that you want to do. You're not wasting your time anymore trying to get jobs just to get experience to figure out you really don't want to do it. You've already figured out what you do like and you don't like during these internships, or even your part-time jobs. They don't have to be an internship. And now when you graduate, you can focus solely on finding those companies that are going to be relevant to what it is that you want to do. Plus, it shows leadership, it shows your ability for time management, and it's going to give you experience that people are going to want to see on this resume. Unpaid internships are no longer legal, correct? Right, except for nonprofits. So, if you are applying for a position for an internship and they are not going to pay you and it is a non-profit organization, they can't do that. So definitely reach out to Hannah, because people in the Career Development Center is supposed to kind of be managing that, reporting that type of stuff. But reach out to Hannah that's going to be able to pull some stuff up for you all to show you which companies want interns, what the expectation is, what they're looking for, what your duties are going to be, how long it's going to be. Sometimes you want a sunrise and a sunset on those based on what else you have going on. For us, because we pay ours so much and we work around everybody's school schedule, they don't work part-time anymore. Their internship kind of is their part-time job. And ours is also built that you can get class hours. So you might be able to club out of a few classes based on what you're learning in our internship. So definitely seek that out. Resume, single most important thing in getting you looked at. One page, no more, summary of your education, experience, skills, and accomplishments, and get you to the interview so you can get the job. The interview gets you the job, the resume gets you in the door. All right. This is the type of stuff that makes you all want to gouge your eyeballs out, but it's so, so important. When my daughter who was looking to come here. She was in high school. I told her, and I actually sent her this and said, you need to go through this, and you need to go through the steps, and you need to write this stuff out. So whenever we go to organize this on a piece of paper, everything's going to make more sense to you. So an outline of your skills and abilities. Start learning what those are. Your work experience, don't forget your extracurricular activities. Leadership is huge. At Enterprise, not only do we require a 4-year degree in order to come to work for us, 4-year degree to wash cars occasionally. It's how demanding this position is. 4-year degree, we also require 6 months of sales experience. If you don't have 6 months of sales experience, it can be, you can use leadership or extracurricular activities or even your participation in an athletic sport here at the college in lieu of that. So you definitely want to make sure that you are highlighting that. Make sure on each one of them that you're writing it out in thoughts, because when you go to organize it to put in bullet points, you're going to be able to capture everything that you want. So that says 1 paragraph worth of information for each item that's listed up there. Quantifiable data, what is that? Yes. 4 years on this, or 3 years of this, or first place in this, or even like captain of this. Those are the types of things that you want to put on there. Top 10% of this. Those are the things that are going to catch people's eyes, okay? Your success stories, list of skills and abilities, and ways in which each item illustrates one of your strengths and weaknesses. Does everybody feel like they have their strengths and weaknesses written down and really locked down? You know absolutely what you're strong at and what your weaknesses are. Definitely do that. Put down, just put strengths on one side of the piece of paper and weaknesses on the other side, and draw a line down and start trying to write those out. It is harder than what you think it is, but it's going to be very, very important to writing a really strong resume. Here's a great way to do everything that I just kind of walked through with you. A grid to write everything down. And this is all in your handout that I gave to you all, so that you can go back and look at it. If you want an email version of it so that you can actually get in and look at some stuff, Hannah has that in the Career Development Center for you all to go through. But huge, huge things that are going to be very relevant to writing a resume. The career objective is still on the screen. It is very old school. It is very pre-2008. It is not something that you need on your resume, or I would advise for you to put on your resume anymore. Whenever people send me their resumes to look over after I do a workshop like this, because I tell you, absolutely, I'll do that for you. I'll rework a few. After this workshop last year, I think I reworked about 10 or 12 different resumes from people that were in here, just to kind of really showcase the things that were super important for what they were trying to do. The objective was the main thing that I took off. If you're applying for the job, then we already know what your objective is, right? That's the position that you want. You don't need that sentence on there anymore. Plus, I can't tell you how often that when people have just one resume that they send out to everybody, they forget about the objective. So I'll get resumes all the time that tell me that they want an HR position at Dow Chemical. That's what their objective is. That's a bad thing. And that seems to be the one thing that gets people in trouble, is that objective. So make sure just to take it off. Don't use it. It's taking up your space from your one page. What's in your objective, you can actually put in your cover letter, so you don't need that anymore. Plus, people are just writing really big words in there and sentences that at the end of looking at an objective, we didn't even know what they were trying to say. So, okay, so exactly what are you trying to do? Sell those things to me throughout your resume and in your cover letter. How many of you all have had some form of work experience? Even if it's babysitting, cutting grass. Okay. Awards and honors, huge. After your sophomore year, do not use your high school experience anymore. Not relevant. Why? Okay, great.
Makes it seem like you haven't done anything notable in college.
Exactly. Or even if you have done things, you're still comparing that was super huge. If it's something that you really want to talk and want people to know about, bring it up during an interview if it's relevant to the question that they ask. but don't put it on your resume. Once you've completed your sophomore year, and really you're pushing it once you've completed your freshman year with some of the stuff that's on there, don't put stuff after you've completed your freshman year of college, don't put stuff from your freshman, sophomore year of high school. Not relevant any longer, okay? References, separate sheet. You can put on the very bottom of your resume that references are going to be available upon request. You don't even have to put that on there at all. You can if it makes you feel better so that you think, well, they're going to know that I have them available. But if they want them, they'll ask you for them. Okay, so don't waste that page space that you have, one page to write your resume by putting your references on there. No nicknames. My name is actually Donna Nicole Gray. So on my resume, it's going to say Donna Nicole Gray, because when I complete an application for them, my resume is going to match that application. They're going to be able to find me. You have some people that'll go by Smurf or whatever. That doesn't need to be anywhere on your resume because it's a professional position. You can let a recruiter know when they start contacting you that you go by a different name, and I always do that. My email address, if you get something from me, is going to say donnann.gray@urec.com. When people talk back and forth from me, I always sign it at Nikki at the bottom, try to give them an idea of what they should call me. But if I were in a professional environment, I would say to people, just call me Nikki. That's what everybody calls me. But on your resume, you're selling professionalism. This, so important. If you do not have a professional email address that is not big girl getting it, booty popping, whatever at Gmail, please go fix yourself up an email. I think it's hysterical, and the girl who works for me thinks it's hysterical. We read your email addresses. It is part of who you are. You're trying to sell yourself to us, right? So we're like, what do they think is professional? Because you would only put something professional on this resume. And I'm using email addresses that we've seen, by the way, big booty girl pop in, and just crazy, awful, hysterical things that are on there that you just don't want. Go create yourself a professional Gmail account. It's free, doesn't cost you anything. Your account here is professional too. It just has your name, right? And your initials. That would be fine on there. If you're already getting a lot of stuff to that email address, go create one that you're using for nothing but jobs. But remember your email address, remember your password, so you can get in there and look at it all the time. Don't forget to go back there and look at it. Once you complete an application from us, we actually communicate with you the majority of the time via email, and people always forget about that address. So keep that in mind and set it to the side. Don't give it to your friends or anybody else that's going to clog that up. It'll be a real quick read for you when you jump over there. Home number and school phone numbers. Don't forget to put your area codes on there. Even in West Virginia now, we have more than one area code, which is so weird to me. If you're listing your cell phone, be sure to have a professional greeting. Again, another one of my favorite things. We call most people on speakerphone in my office because we're typing things that you all are telling us, or we're trying to get to things from the computer real quick. That way our phone's sitting right here, we can actually talk to you, hear us really well. We can put things on there so that my employee sits through the next wall from me. I can hear phone calls that she has, she hears stuff that I have. Ringback tones sometimes are our favorite. We get up and start dancing around and can't believe that some people have those ringback tones because that's the phone number they told me to call at. Or they'll do that where they try to trick you. Hello? Hello? Psych, it's not me. Leave a message. If you told a recruiter to call you at a certain number, be cognizant of how you're selling yourself. It's funny to me and Leanne. It is not funny to most people. Okay, so be thinking about that. Personal stats, again, height, weight, marital status. You wouldn't believe how often people tell me that, whether they love Jesus or don't love Jesus. Like things on their resume, it's fantastic, whatever it is that they're doing, but it's not professional. Those are the things that you don't want to talk about. They'll also tell me very quickly on the phone, when we're doing a phone interview. For some reason, older people feel the need to tell me that they're older. Younger people never do that. I don't know why. They'll say, well, I'm not a traditional candidate. I'm 50 plus years old. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to know that yet. Quit telling me this stuff. Is it job related that they're 50 years old? Is it job related if you're married? Is it job related if you're a parent or not? Don't talk about things in an interview or put it on your resume that's not job related. All they need to know is your ability to do this job. And that resume is selling you that, or selling that so we can get you in the door, right? Your degree that you're attaining, your major, minors, and concentrations, if those are not relevant to the position you're trying to get an interview for, take them off, because it's going to give you more room on that one page. If it's relevant and it's going to showcase a little bit of experience or skills that you have for something, leave it on there, that's fine. But I can tell you, most employers really don't care what your minor is. Okay? If it's not a college but an institution that you're going to, and then your graduation date, that's really important to have on there. Only include your GPA if it's higher than a 3.0. Why? It's absolutely something to showcase. It's kind of like an honor or an award. Promise you, my GPA from college isn't something to be proud about, all right? I was a mom, and I was working, and I was sorority, and I wasn't grown up, and that wasn't something I was going to throw out there. Unless it's something where you really know employers of that magnitude like to see it, I almost wouldn't even put it on there if it's less than a 3.5. Like, that's something that's really going to start showcasing you. Don't add your GPA to anything unless it's asked for. A lot of times that can be a discriminatory thing for you all as well. I have an area manager that I have to constantly grab by the top of his shirt because a GPA is not part of our minimum qualifications. You just had to have graduated from college, okay? He wants to ask people all the time what their GPA was when they graduated. Well, that's not part of our criteria, and it's definitely not job related, so he has to quit asking that stuff. But if somebody had less than a 3.0, to some people, what could that really shout out about that person? Absolutely. Right on the tip of the nail. Like, it just screams to some people that you're lazy. Because a lot of times, people, all they had to do was go to college. They didn't have to work. They weren't playing sports. They weren't doing all these other things. They just kind of lived that lush college life that most people in today's world don't get to live. So they can focus on their studies. They don't have all the other responsibilities that you guys have. So unless it's asked for, don't put it on there unless it's really something that's going to elevate you above other people. Okay? Titles of your position, and this is your work experience, name of your organization, location of the company, date of employment, and description of experience which emphasizes specific skills and achievements. Again, you want those to be qualifiable if you can, or quantifiable if you can. So if you impacted a customer service score, if you were in the top whatever percent for sales, personally, or when you started work there, if the place of employment actually elevated somehow whenever you were there. Those are the types of things you want to put in there. Okay? Use action words to describe your job duties. And in your packet, there's like a page and a half of action words that you all can actually use in your bullet points when you're putting in there. You definitely want to add those. Teamwork, huge. Your ability to verbally communicate, written communication, analytical skills, computer skills, and leadership ability. All of that needs to be showcased in your work experience. Those are things that you can really highlight and put quantifiable data to. Here's the list I was telling you about that you all can use. Show that you're a leader. Include any leadership positions you've held in professional organizations, athletics, student clubs. How many of you all are involved in things on campus outside of going to class? Can I ask a daring question? If you aren't, why not? Anybody? Find something to get engaged in. I'm always throwing things at my daughter, especially here on campus. I'm like, oh, you should be a part of SAT, or you should do this. And she's like, oh, stop. She's already taking 20 hours. She's already doing like crazy things. But I know how important it is and how it's going to sell you on your resume. If you're an athlete, you're engaged in something else. That's going to be something for you to talk about. If you haven't pledged a sorority fraternity, it's not for you, not a problem. Find another club, find another organization to get engaged in. It's going to help you start networking, number one, which is gonna help you whenever you need references. It's gonna let you see things a little bit different. It's gonna give you the opportunity to get leadership positions. How many of you all have had to work in a group project at this point? How many of you all wanted to kill one or two people in that group that you worked with? How many of you all realize that people are lazy? It's going to help you work through that. It's going to give you things to talk about in that interview, because there's going to be things about leadership and group type of experiences, teamwork type of things. You can use those things, extracurriculars, to talk through and to really showcase this, because the hardest thing that you'll ever do is manage someone else's performance. It's the hardest thing, no matter what it is that you do in life, what position that you hold. You can make yourself pick up those tools. You can make yourself perform. You can make yourself get through things. You can try to get buy-in from other people. You can show them how to do it 150 times. But unless somebody wants to pick those tools up and use them, you can't make them. Those are the types of things, your organizations, that's what's going to help you be able to talk about these successes and even put it on your resume. Okay? Military experience is huge. Anybody in here been in the military of any side? It's a really great thing to highlight. Community involvement. How many of you all are involved in your community some way? Picked up trash, you do Susan G. Komen. Anything else? Fundraising events that you all have. If your sorority fraternity does fundraising events for stuff, MBA, that's great stuff to put on there too. I know some people who just interviewed for a couple positions, and one reason that they actually even got the position they got was because they were heavily engaged in volunteer work in their community. It was really, really important to this particular employer. So make sure that you're highlighting that stuff on your resume, okay? Awards and honors. Do you all keep track of that? Awards and honors that you've received? If you get stuff like showcasing your awards and honors, and you get it electronically, make a folder in your Outlook or whatever that you use so that you can slide that stuff over there, because a lot of times you'll forget about it, or do a hard copy printout of this stuff, papers that you exceeded on, projects that you worked on, anything like that that really kind of elevated you. Save this stuff to go back through as you're working on your resume, but to also kind of put together a brag book that you can take with you to an interview. It's going to say, I've listed all this stuff, but now let me show it to you. It's huge when people see that you put a lot of time into working in your network. Dean's List honors, huge. Scholarships that you've received, that needs to be on your resume for sure, and Honor Society inductions. Unless a position wants very specific computer skills, any specific training, or maybe they're looking for somebody bilingual, don't waste the space on that page putting stuff like this in there, because you're going to be able to talk about it in your experience. Unless it's something that you really want to pop out that you wanted because you saw when you read the description of the job that they were looking for it, don't waste the space, because you're going to probably talk about it more than 1 or 2 times anyway. Okay? References. This is always a lot of fun for me, because I actually call everybody's references. I used to let our background check company do that for us. And after talking through an audit that I went through, one thing that they really encouraged me to do was to start calling the employment people, because employers now, and we do the same thing, if you call somebody just to verify if they were employed with Enterprise Rent-A-Car, or if they are employed with Enterprise Rent-A-Car, we actually have what's called a work number. We'll say, you know what, you'll need to call the work number for that. Here's the work number, and here's my company's code. And we have basically an automated system, or we have operators that answer the phone just to verify. And the only thing we will verify with you, unless you're a bank and somebody's trying to buy a house and they need to verify their employment dates and how much money that they make, they will do that. But if it's for any verification as far as work goes, because of legal concerns and matters, all we will verify is their employment dates that you're giving to us and the position that they were at, they started at, and they ended at, and those times. We will not tell you anything negative. Were they fired? Were they ever promoted? We won't tell you anything like that. Nor was I getting that type of information. And sometimes when you call people, I can't tell people that because we have a policy at Enterprise that we have to refer them to that work number. But a lot of different people will tell me things. and I can get a lot more from somebody's voice than I can from an operator. So if you're going to use references, number one, make sure those people know that you use them as a reference. Don't be so sure of yourself that those people think really highly of you. I would go to someone and say, I'm applying to this position X, Y, and Z. They would like references. I think because of whatever relationship we have, whatever work experience we have between us, you would be someone I'd like to put on there. Would you be able to give me a good reference if I did that? And would you be willing to give me a good reference? How many of you all would be shocked to know that people who have given me their references, I've gotten very negative feedback from people? Would you be mortified? I mean, yeah, they were on the team, but they were lazy. I wouldn't bring them back on the team again. It was one of the worst recruits that I've actually ever had. Definitely a lesson learned. I've had that before. I wouldn't hire that person. We actually fired them for stealing. Well, we thought they were stealing, couldn't really prove it, but let me tell you why we thought they were stealing. I'm like, gosh, you know what? Don't need any more information on that. Got enough here. If this person felt good about telling me as an employer that this person's going to give me a rave review and didn't have enough respect for themselves or that person, I don't even know anything else about them. So make sure you're delving into that. Make sure you give them a phone number where they can actually reach the person you want to talk to as well. That's really, really important. Here's kind of a setup of the design and what everything should look like, and then there's an example as we go through. Choose a pattern of spacing and stick with it. That's one thing I can tell you that really kind of throws me off when I'm starting to look at people's resumes. And this is really big up here, and this is small down here, and then all of a sudden everything's italicized. I'm like, what is going on with this thing? It's like a carnival ride. It's starting to make me a little sick. If you're not italicizing things, don't start doing it down at the bottom or in the body. It really isn't going to pop anything out. Those quantifiable data that I was telling you about earlier, that's what's going to pop things out for me on you guys. Okay? Don't fold or staple your resume. Get big envelopes, slide it in there, and send it. Graphs and pictures, I don't even know why you would put that on there. It's very confusing. I don't know why some of the things happen that happen. Acronyms and abbreviations. We use a lot of acronyms and abbreviations at Enterprise. So if I were to send my resume now, if I were trying to get hired somewhere else, and I would say SQI or ERAC or DUB, people wouldn't know what we're talking about. Make sure you spell things out for people and don't use acronyms on your resume. Here's what it looks like. Remember the objective. Don't put it on there. I'm just telling you right now, you don't need it. Your education is huge. Right now, that's the greatest thing that you all have going for you is your education and not so much your experience. If you're someone like me that's been doing something for 15 years, what is more important, my education or my experience? Yeah, my experience. So if I were to send out a resume, would my education or my experience go first? Absolutely, my experience. How many of you all have had to write a cover letter before? Is it hard for you? Why was it hard? It's not a trick question. It's not a trick question. It is. It's time consuming. It's hard to figure out how to put all that stuff in there but not reiterate it again on your resume. Number one, you all have such awesome technology now with the internet that most people never had before. Google it, Bing it, look at cover letters. There's great examples out there for you all to be able to use. Okay, like type in cover letter examples in there and they're free and it gives you a very easy write. You just have to read the sentence that they're saying and translate your experience into it. One thing I need you to know is a resume and an interview is actually your time to brag on yourself. That's what I need you to do. How are you going to stand out before I actually speak to you? How are you going to stand out above everyone else? But be humble at the same time, right? So that's how you want to relate it back to team type of things. A lot of times, thanking people for their time, how grateful you would be for the opportunity to even sit in front of them. But I'm grateful for this opportunity to sit in front of you because here's what I've accomplished and here's what I want to do to you or for you. And here's all the experience that I have that I think is going to make me the best candidate. So there's a really easy way to kind of brag on yourself and to sell why you're the best person without, pardon my French, sounding like a douchebag, because a lot of people come in and sound like douchebags, and that's not what you want. Yeah, definitely want to be professional and humble all at the same time. Applications, complete them. Don't spell things wrong. Make sure you go back through your applications that you have to complete online and everything is spelled and put in there appropriately. Don't leave things blank, and don't tell me to see the resume. It'll get down to the work experience. People will have submitted the resume and they're like, see resume. Oh, so they're lazy, are they? Okay, great. Note that right now. Why do you not want to do that?
Have everything right there, but for whoever you're applying to, so they don't need to put through stuff.
Yeah. Put it there. Show them what you've been able to do. There's actually some things you can be able to fill on that application that you didn't have enough room to put on that one page of your resume, right? It's going to ask about honors and activities and maybe things that you didn't think were so important to put on there, but you really want them to know about. You're going to have the opportunity to do that on that application, so take advantage of it. Just make sure things are spelled right, and don't do it in all caps. Don't yell at me, okay? Proofread. Neat, appealing, and unique. And then absolutely go see Hannah to look over things, or send it to me. My contact information is in that handout. It's up here. Here's some great places that you can go on the net to look at resumes and cover letters, different things you might want, how to put together references, different things like that. But if you send it to me, I promise you I will send back either ideas or things to do, or I will say to you, it's going to be really hard to communicate what I think you should do on this. Do you mind if I just rework it and send it back to you? And I'll do that for you for sure. Other questions? I will show you, and I asked her, actually I didn't ask her, I told her I was going to do it. I just had to redo my daughter's, who's here, her resume, just to update some stuff for a position that she was going to look at. So here, without having a ton of work experience, here's probably what more than likely your alls should look like. Here's a great layout. I did put this down here because after reading the posting, I knew that they wanted resume or her references, but I didn't want her to put them on there. That way she could just hand them if she needed to. She has a reference sheet already together. After her interview, she obviously called me and we talked about it. She said they were going to call her references, and I said, call, even though your references know that they're being used, call and let them know that they're probably going to be getting a call and it's from this person and what it is that they're going to be asking and what position that you're interviewing for, so they know how to give them feedback for what it is that they're looking at. Okay? Make sure if you're living on campus, but you have another address, that you have both addresses on there. I know it's really small, I'm sorry, you all can't see it very well. Other questions? Surely somebody's got a question. It's the quietest they've ever been, Hannah. How many of y'all feel like you'll do better at writing a resume now? That's a good thing. How many are going to send me your resume for me to look at it before you submit it to anyone? Definitely do. I'm not awesome at cover letters because we don't ask for them, so I don't see them very often, but I've had to write a couple for myself for positions internally and different things that I've had to set on, so I have some that I could probably really help out with your cover letter a little bit. So take advantage of the things that they offer you. If you have somebody professional that does this all the time, let them help you all. I may even care to come in and do mock interviews if you all wanted me to really get you lined up to what a mock interview is going to look like. A lot of people think they can just wing interviews. I promise you, and I have employees who've been working for Enterprise for a while. They're going to interview for something internally, and when I throw a question at them, just a random question, they would look at me like deer in headlights. They don't know what to say or how to say it. There's a STAR method, that's what it's called, whenever you interview, that you're supposed to use. Okay, so when somebody says, what which is they're going to ask you for, give me an example of, or tell me about a time when things that you've done. That's what they want to know. So when you respond back to these questions, the STAR method is what you use. So you're going to state the situation. Okay, here was the project, or here was what I was doing, or here's what needed to be improved. Give it a time limit. Did this take you one day? Did it take you 2 weeks? Was it a 6-month project? Give them a time frame of what you're talking about. All the actions, that's your A. Here's all the things that we specifically did and what we had to overcome in order to make this happen, and then here's my result. So that's how you want to answer questions, even on a phone interview. How many of you all have had a phone interview before? Is it like crazy awkward for you? Did you know it was coming though? Like, was it scheduled and you need to be prepared for it? Well, that's a phone screen. It's not technically an interview if it wasn't scheduled, but they are awkward. One reason that we do that at Enterprise is because we feel like 80% of our fleet growth comes from proper use of the telephone, right? So we want to know how you're going to be perceived on the other end of the phone to our customers, so that's one reason we start that. Plus, can you imagine me doing 12,000